It's a beautiful day to you, our lovely and smart real estate investors, both at home and also in diaspora. I am Ibeju, and I'm super delighted to welcome you to another insightful and, of course, educative session of Property Matters here on YouTube. In case you're seeing a video like this for the first time, I'm Ibeju. I discuss everything you need to know about real estate investment, from property acquisition, from property verification, from different property terminologies, how to identify a contract of sale, what are those important legal clauses you need to understand before you go into any kind of real estate contract with any real estate developer. We've talked about title, we've talked about how to verify title, we've talked about some important things you need to know. More importantly, if you're going into the off-plan market, I've talked about the important real estate red flag that you need to put into consideration. I've talked about how to identify a fraudulent real estate transaction, and I've also went further to talk about how to identify a manipulative real estate developer. Real estate, yeah, on Property Matters is where we decide, where we decipher, when we explain. I've said it before. Matter is like a surgical room that does what? That examine and, of course, decipher everything you need to know about real estate investment. In case it sounds like something you really want to know more, give us an encouragement by subscribing to this channel, by turning on the notification bell. Don't just subscribe, I encourage your friends and loved ones to do so. I'll be back immediately after the show timeout. Stay tuned. Right, you're welcome back. I'm super delighted to be on your screen today, doing what I love to do best, of course, giving you all the latest gist, latest information about property investment here in the beautiful city of Lagos, Nigeria. A lot of people that ask me, okay, did you just focus only on Lagos? Because of our sphere of influence, and of course because of how important the Lagos state real estate market is. In the meantime, we're going to focus some of our analysis, and of course in due time we are going to extend our analysis to other states across the nation. So today I'm going to be talking about the recent collapse of the 7th-story building at Ikoyi Banana Island. And of course, this obviously is an unfortunate thing, it's a sad story. And of course, I really want to, extend my sympathy to everybody that were involved in this. I also want to quickly, commend the Lagos State government for responding very swiftly to the to the incident. I want also commend that of course I've said it before that when it comes to real estate development in Lagos, Nigeria, in most cases when we have cases of property collapse, the response of the Lagos State government has been very encouraging. I want to congratulate and of course thank the Lagos State, all the the agencies that responded swiftly to this unfortunate scenario. When this building collapse happened, I was on site, of course not anywhere close to Ikoyi, and I got the information. So of course the way we do, we quickly swung into action, and of course we started doing a whole lot of due diligence. We began to investigate what could be the cause of the building, who are the developers of this property, were there any structural defects that must have resulted to this collapse. And of course, according to our information, we also found out that they were about doing another cast on the building before the old building, and of course before the old structure went down. So on today's episode of Property Matters, I'm going to be explaining the major causes of building collapse. Of course, some of the things I will be saying may not be new to some of our our investors and of course our viewers out there. But one of the things I want you people to understand basically is that when we have repeated cases of property collapse, a whole lot of investors, okay, usually express their fear. Many people are always scared of, and of course they are always being skeptical with this kind of repeated cases of property collapse. Are my investment safe? Will I not be losing a whole lot of money if I choose, okay, to invest in Nigeria? Of course. Now, the very first thing I want to do is that I want to quickly address the issue of fear. And I want to quickly let you know that when we have cases of building collapse like this, there are a lot of hidden factors that are, that are responsible. And that is not, to sway your action or to create any form of fear or doubt in investing in Lagos State real estate markets. From the indices of the supply and demand, from the indices of infrastructural development, Lagos State real estate market is still the best market that you can put in your investment, and of course enjoy massive return on your investment. But in some cases, when we have cases of, it's been twice since we have these cases in the Ikoyi axis of Lagos, and what could be the reason? Now, the very first thing I will be addressing that obviously, resulted to the cause of this collapse basically is due to the fact that now I've been doing this analysis on the twofold. The very first thing I was saying basically is that the failure of the real estate of the Lagos state government to regulate the activities of real estate developer in Lagos, Nigeria, will might even result to more building collapse if some important parameters and of course indices are not put in place. Like for instance, I like I said in my analysis, I've worked with several real estate developer, and I understand the cost of land, and I understand why some developers may intend, to have as many high rise as possible. Now, when you look at the Ikoyi axis, depending on the location, when you look at the likes of the Bodilon, when you look at like the Gerald Road and other, metropolis in Ikoyi, you will understand that the cost of land, basically, the cheapest you will see is between 900 million, 1.2 billion, and 300 billion. Now, in a scenario whereby a developer buys a property for 1.2 billion, and of course, let's say for instance, in most cases, it's not always like an acre. You might just see maybe the developer may buy like maybe 3 to 4 plots. Now, when you put in some cost, I have invested 1.2 billion. Of course, this is not a justification to the incidents, but I just want to create, an insightful overview of why we have some of these cases, and of course, these unfortunate circumstances happening repeatedly. So, if I put a sum of like 1.2 billion, I've invested as an investor, I want to make back my profits, and of course my capital, and of course make some profits. And this is what actually led, okay, to the advent of having high rises. You cannot buy a property for 1.2 billion and build bungalow. You cannot buy a property for 1.2 billion and build duplexes or terraces. If you are doing that, you were running on a loss. So the developer basically must have calculated his expenses, his profit, and his loss, and must have factored that in the cost of the building. So they may say, okay, fine, one of the way I can make my money back is to like maybe 7-story building, 8-story building. So if I start selling them unit by unit, I'll be able to recoup the money I use in buying the land, and of course get some of the money I use in erecting the structure. Now, in doing that, a lot of people put a whole lot of things, or a lot of real estate developer get most things wrongly, and this is where I'm going to be doing an insightful analysis. Now, I'll be using the Ikoyi as a case study and relate it to other parts of the highland. 2 weeks ago, I got a call from, and of course, an investor. And let me quickly reiterate this: the investor did not buy from me. They didn't seek the developer. The investor did not seek my real estate professional advice before going to buy. So the man bought the property at Lekki Phase 1, and it was like he started having doubts because the realtor that connected him to the property, and of course the bot, was no longer available. So I decided, okay, fine, let's go. So we drove down there, and by the time we got there, the state at which I saw that property, the project that they've been on this project for 3 years, and this man has paid 85 million naira for, I think, a 2-bedroom apartment in that area. When I got to that area, when I got to that site, when I saw the project, I could not even, I don't have the effrontery and the guts, okay, to call the man and tell him, this is the state of the property. You paid almost 90 million for 1 unit of a 2-bedroom apartment. It was in a sorry state, and I cannot even post it. So, in cases like this, real estate investors need to understand that when you are buying, of course, I'm still going to go back to the Ikoyi case study. Now, when a real estate investor is doing a real estate project, you need to understand that when they are advertising or marketing off-plan project to you, you need to understand that the off-plan project is not a rocket science. That means that it takes a whole lot of processes, it takes a whole lot of time, and most times it also depends on the level of the integrity of the company that is constructing the building. The integrity, when I was talking about this, I was giving instances about, what exactly should be my major, area of concentration. In fact, I had an hard conversation with another real estate investor abroad, and this man was asking me, if I were to be in her shoes, she has done this, what exactly can I do? So I began to align some of the criteria, what I would do, because it's my money, before I partner. Now, the Ikoyi building collapse was a very, very pitiful state. Although the Lagos state government is yet, okay, to release an official statement on what must have caused, the collapse of that building. But from the videos we've seen, from the interaction we've had with some of the engineers that we have there, number one, we have seen several times that a whole lot of real estate companies build. One of the things we discovered was that, you see, that building that collapsed a few days ago, the developer did not get a building approval from the Lagos state government before building. And when I was talking about some of the criteria of off plan, I was emphasizing on the need for the real estate developer to get an approval. Now, an approval basically helps you to understand that this building is in accordance, to the Lagos state building rules and regulations. And the approval clearly specifies what should be the height, what should be the dimension, what should be the width. The approval tells you the number of stories, if it's an high-rise that must be done. The approval shows you the architectural drawing and the state and of course, and the project, how the project is being monitored. The approval shows you the kind of the materials that should be used. And constantly, when an approval is gotten on the property, Lagos State building monitoring team constantly go on to that places to check, in order to be assured that these people are building in conformity to what has been stipulated by the Lagos state government. I've seen instances whereby a real estate company is building, the Lagos state management building control got there, they demolished some places. They had to put a whole lot of things that were wrongly done by the builder, and they had to adjust. So one of the causes of this Ikoyi building collapse basically was due to the fact that, number one, we discovered that the person did not obtain an approval. And when you look at some things, I was given instances of buying a property for 1.2 billion. I, as as an investor that have invested my money, I want to recoup my money. So in some cases, the more money I will make is dependent on the number of floors I have erected. And another thing is that when you look at that video, basically, you'll observe, although they are yet to confirm, but of course it is very clear to the eye that there were a lot of structural defects in that building. So there were compromise of building materials, there were compromises of a lot of things. In fact, the amazing thing basically is that they have not yet reviewed who the developer of this project is. But the only information we got basically was that they didn't get an approval. And while they were doing that, because it's Banana Island, you can't just intrude. So they were building under the security that nobody can just enter Banana Island. And that, for them to have built to that level, that's not the only structure we have. There were several other buildings, several high-rises in that structure. And telling me that all those high-rises were built without approval and nobody notified the Lagos state government. So I'm not here to analyze this, but I just want you guys to understand that, number one, we observe a lot of structural defects in that project. We noticed a lot of inferior building materials. I was saying this in one of my videos. I said that in cases whereby clients don't pay up and the cost of building materials, is skyrocketing, the tendency that the real estate company or the developer that is handling that project may want to compromise on the quality of material is and that's what you have seen. Of course, we are still here to get an official report on what may be the actual, the amazing report I got out. Of course, I consider it to be very, very hilarious, was due to the fact that they said a truck drove and hit one of the pillars of the building, and that obviously was the major cause of the collapse. Well, that is yet to be seen. Investigation is still on, and of course you can be rest assured that as all these things go on, we will definitely keep you guys informed. Now, when you are buying a project in Lagos, Nigeria, when you are dealing with a real estate developer, and more importantly, when you are doing an off-plan project, I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. It is very, very inappropriate for you to buy from a developer that does not have a building approval. That's number one. Then number two, you need to understand the financial capability of that developer to deliver that project from start to finish. Number three, if it is high rise, you need to ensure that some professionals are there to explain and of course verify the qualities of the materials that is being used. After this incident, I can tell you that Lagos State government is going to go tough on some real estate companies. They are going to be very, very strict. And of course, I pray that they will be able to, minimize all the situations so that we don't have, repetition of all these circumstances. So that is obviously the case of the Ikoyi saga. And can we have repeated cases in other places on the island? Well, to an extent. I was telling somebody a few weeks ago, I said, I have people who have bought a an off-plan project through me in 2021. And I was still there on Saturday, last week Sunday. I'll be there this week, and I'll be there upper week. What I'm doing basically is that I constantly go to site to check. The developer is reputable. The company is very, very, in terms of quality, deliver quality. But in most cases, in this our Nigeria, one of those builders may want to, compromise. In most cases, when you give money for materials, they might have spent the money on different things, and one of the way they want to cover up their fraudulent heart is to do what is to compromise on what the qualities of what is being used, okay, to build and to construct the project that you have paid for. So I was there, I checked for that video, so I checked everything. I interviewed, I went round to check, and this is what you gain when I'm in charge. I don't compromise on anything. I go there to check every day, and there are several other people that are that I help them to get an off-plan project that I'm still going there till date. So I understand the way this market works. I understand that in cases whereby the company is reputable, there might be some bad eggs among those construction workers that they want to cut corners in order to siphon money. So what I do basically is that after we've settled with the real estate company, I still go there to check the quality of materials, to check the quality of things, in order to ensure that my clients are getting the value of what they've paid for. Now, on the final note, I want you people to understand that when it comes to real estate investment, more importantly, when you're buying an off-plan project, I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. Number one, off-plan project takes time. It takes time. I've said this before. And number two, the integrity of the company you are buying for matters. In this time and age whereby we are frequently experiencing rise in building materials, inflation is affecting everything. So the tendency for the company to want to compromise is very, very high. So, and this is why I want to quickly explain this, and I want to admonish all our viewers and subscribers that when you want to do real estate, it is very important you go through somebody who is highly experienced. You cannot undermine the importance of experience. A whole lot of people will take you to properties and there will be issues and they won't be anywhere to be found. Most of the cases, most of the investigations I've done over time, even with their own personal money, are investigations that these investors have bought through some set of people, and when these investors need them to be there for them, they are nowhere to be found. So in most cases, I take up additional responsibility. In most cases, I have to turn down to them and say, Master, I'm very, very sorry. I have a lot on my desk. Can you please hold on till this time? If not, I can get you somebody else to help you do this. And this is one of the reasons why. Because you see, if you're going through an off-plan project, and one of the ways you can avoid what happened in Ikoyi and other places where we've recorded collapse is basically to have a company that has integrity, a company that will not compromise its standard, a company that will constantly give you situational report on what the things are, and more importantly, you are buying from a company that have secured a building approval and they are building in conformity to the approval that has been stated. It is not the case whereby the Lagos State government asks them to do 5 floors, they are doing 10 floors. Of course, that one alone can cause collapse. It's not a situation whereby the government will say, okay, fine, let's have 2 car parking space here, and because of the fact that they want to minimize and squeeze everything, they will squeeze it to 1. And of course, you start having issues of spaces, you start having issues of ventilation. There are other places that I've seen other places whereby they've given people houses. Then after the investors have moved to the house, in the broad daylight, their POP is falling off the roof. I've seen instances whereby the case has been what I paid for was different from what I got, and this is one of the reasons why an experienced hand. What we do basically is that We don't just stay by and we leave you. The moment we are involved, we take it from the start to the end. You can imagine, I've helped people to get an off-plan project till 2021, and this 2023, I'm still checking. I'm still going there. I'm still supervising. I'm still doing everything, and I'm giving situational report. So these are some of the things you need to put into consideration whenever you're doing a real estate investment. All right, so this is where I'm going to draw the curtain off today's episode of Property Matters. It's because a short episode, because we wanted to give our wonderful viewers and listeners this important update, and of course to notify you that your investment is safe. It is not all places that that will experience collapse. No, I've explained that in most cases, what causes this collapse basically is due to the fact that, number one, these people did not seek approval, and for those who have gotten approval, they are not building in conformity to what the approval have stated. And in some cases, you've seen how some companies have what compromise on the quality of building, from the iron rod to the sand to the structural, and of course that's where you begin to see some structural defects in the buildings and some other things. And when we have cases like this, it begins to attract the attention of the investors, and of course they may want to have doubt. So we are here to clarify the fact that you don't need to have doubt. We are constantly working to ensure that all the people, of course, there's not even all, it's just few. When it comes to off plan, I don't work with everybody. It's only few. I have tested you. If you don't do if you don't have a reputation to protect, I won't work with somebody that will ruin my reputation. I won't do that. So these are some of the, so we constantly check to ensure that they are building in conformity to the plan, they are using the right materials, and they are following the normal building principles and things. And this is how we can protect your interest. More importantly, if you want to go into luxury building. So this is where I'm going to draw the curtain off to this episode of Property Matters. I hope you've gotten massive value. I am Adejare, and I will see you in my next video. Have a nice day. Bye, and God bless you.